third sign of the apocalypse. It's the next level. We're here with your Dungeon Master, Rob Card.
Hello, and welcome to The Next Level. I'm Rob Card, and we're doing another character interview tonight. We have Carolyn with us. Carolyn is playing Gildy Posey. Tell us a little bit about her.
So, Gildy Posey, or Gildy, is a halfling ranger. She has been living in the Shadow Forest for a long time now with her family. She was married and she has 3 adult children. So she's kind of more middle-aged. She spent a lot of her life guiding people around the world, basically. So she's seen a lot of the world. She's very familiar with the forest because she lived there for many years with her husband, who is a druid. Yeah, that's
a good introduction.
Basics about Gildy.
And you've gotten to know a couple of, at least one of the other characters, sort of pre-game, and sort of you'll be meeting the other ones soon enough. What would you want the other characters to know about you?
If I was Gildy, I would certainly want the other characters to be very aware of how much of an expert she is in terms of navigating the wilderness and the forest in general. She's living in the city right now. She lived previously for many years in the forest, but now she's living in the city. So she will often guide parties through the forest or into the forest if they're looking for something. So she would definitely want them to respect her expertise and authority.
Okay. And assuming people asked, your character have been around all sorts of different places, so where would you say you're from?
That's a really good question. I think Gildy would have different answers depending on who's asking. So probably if it's like random person she's just met or not someone she's expecting to have to interact very much, she'd just say, I'm from the Free City, or I'm from the forest, the Shadow Forest, something like that. She'd keep it simple. For anyone she was anticipating like telling a longer story, she would probably say, I'm from a little bit of everywhere, and she might tell a little bit of her journey through the world in her life.
Okay. Is there sort of a big goal or sort of anything Gildy is working towards?
Her number one goal is to find her husband, actually. So I mentioned her husband previously. I kind of mentioned him in the past tense, but Gildy doesn't, I don't know, and Gildy doesn't know whether or not he's alive. They were spending their time in the forest. He's a druid, and they were trying to figure out what's going wrong with the Shadow Forest and why it is so shadowy and gloomy and mysterious, like in a weird way. But then one day he was out on kind of a normal outing, but he never came back. And she, despite her expertise in navigating the forest, was never able to find him. And so she often uses, she'll guide parties through or into the forest, partially with her own goal of finding her husband. She knows that she can't really go in alone. It's too dangerous for one person to be just wandering around by themselves. But yeah, that is her number one goal, to find her husband.
All right. And are there other people that you know or sort of already have relationships with in the city?
Gildy has been in the city for a couple years, living in the city for a couple years, and then before that she would be often traveling to the city for supplies and stuff like that. So she's probably very familiar with many of the shopkeepers in the city. She would be familiar with, she has some family in the city. 2 of her children are there, and she would probably know a couple innkeepers, or generally people who would be aware when there were groups of people looking for help getting through or into the forest.
All right. And we've got our little
yes,
miniature here, so if you want to open that up. You can see what we look like.
I'm very excited for this.
Nice. Should I explain it to our adoring fans?
Explain whatever you'd like.
Okay. I imagine y'all will get to see a close-up of this as well. But I decided to make her as like, she's kind of like, there's leaves on the ground, she's walking through the forest, she's walking very purposefully. She's a ranger in her like number one goal, well, not number one goal, but like whenever she's in the forest, she's always very prepared and making sure that she's going through safely. So she's got a torch, she's got her rope, and then she does have a weapon. Her primary weapon is a gun, actually. She spent a good amount of time of her childhood in Gendisa, is that Gendisa, which is where the gnomes live, who make all of the firearms, or at least the experts in doing so. And so she got very familiar with how to use a gun while she was living there. So that is why she always has her gun. Yeah.
All right.
Neat.
Thank you. That has been another interview. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again on the next level.